It's time now for Carter's Corner. Everything Bay Area sports on the Northern California Sports and Entertainment Network. Here is your host, Carter Kim.
This is the World Series, isn't it? I mean, Jesus. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Carter's Corner. I am Carter Kim here on Northern Lights Sports and Entertainment. Eric, Glenn, Wilby, and everybody else. And we're all gathered around to watch this godforsaken World Series. I mean, Jesus, man. Like, why? Just why? But, hey, the lineup is out, so I figured we would all take a look at it because why not? And I think it's important. Here we go. In this lineup for the New York Yankees, we have Gleyber Torres, Juan Soto, Judge, Stanton, Chisholm, Rizzo, Volpe, Wells, and Verdugo. With that all being considered, I want to look at their careers versus Jack Flaherty. Gleyber Torres is 1 for 3. Juan Soto, though, is 1 for 9, which is very close to ownership. In my opinion, to determine how great a player is versus another player, you should have at least 10 at-bats. 10 at-bats between the two of these players, or somewhere between 10 to 15. Then we can determine how good a player is against a pitcher, how good a hitter is against a pitcher, or a pitcher is against a hitter. Now, you look further down the lineup. He's 0 for 1 versus Jazz Chisholm. And Anthony Rizzo is 9 for 21, almost 429 against him with 6 RBIs and 3 home runs. Volpe is 0 for 2, and Verdugo is 1 for 4. So, Jack Flaherty is coming in with a pretty decent advantage in terms of matchups today. So that will definitely have a lot of interest in my opinion. But the more interesting story, in my opinion, is on the other lineup, actually, between for the Los Angeles Dodgers, Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez, Max Muncy, Enrique Hernandez, Will Smith, Gavin Lux, and Tommy Edman. Now, let's look at the matchups. Shohei Ohtani is 4 for 20. That's 200 average against Garrett Cole with 7 Ks, 1 home run, and 3 RBIs. That's pretty that's pretty good for Cole. But I want everyone to take notice of one specific thing about the players that do well versus Garrett Cole in this series. Again, I'm not sure how to zoom in exactly. Let's see. Oh, maybe I can nope, that's not going to work. Will this work? No, sorry. I'm trying to yeah, that won't work at all. Sorry, I gotta close my window. All right. Yeah. Okay. So I want everyone to take notice of one specific thing here. Mookie Betts is 7 for 17 versus Garrett Cole with no home runs, but an RBI, 1 K, and a 412 average versus Garrett Cole. Obviously, Mookie Betts isn't an RBI guy, but I assume he'd have home runs. But, Mookie Betts has probably runs scored, if I'm being totally honest. Freddie Freeman is 7 for 20 versus Garrett Cole with 1 home run, 2 RBIs, and 7 Ks, as well as Ohtani. Then again, Freddie Freeman is pretty much good against every really good pitcher in baseball, I have a feeling, except maybe Blake Snell. But then let's look further down the list. Teoscar Hernandez is 5 for 26 versus Garrett Cole with 1 home run, 1 RBI, and 7 Ks. Max Muncy is 0 for 3. Enrique Hernandez is 8 for 21 with a home run, an RBI, and 3 Ks. Will Smith is 1 for 3. And Tommy Edman is 0 for 5. Now, what does everybody in this chat notice about the players that have significant ownership on Garrett Cole, except for Freddie Freeman? They're all Boston Red Sox, or at least former Boston Red Sox. So Garrett Cole will have inevitably faced a guy like Mookie Betts. He will have inevitably faced a guy like Teoscar Hernandez. He will have inevitably faced a guy like Max Muncy or Freddie Freeman. I mean, he had, especially Hernandez, Enrique Hernandez, and Mookie Betts. And other than Freddie Freeman and the two Boston Red Sox players, not a lot of guys on this lineup have a lot of ownership on Garrett Cole, which is a little surprising considering Garrett Cole's repertoire. He's definitely good with a knuckle curve, which is definitely something that a lot of the power hitters swing at hard, especially with the velocity that's going at. I mean, if you look at the statistics that Shohei has against a curveball, I mean, they don't have a knuckle curve though, which is not exactly helpful. But a lot of the time, I've seen Shohei swing at knuckle curves, especially knuckle curves. That's knuckle curves and sweepers. Shohei swings at a lot, and it's definitely interesting to watch. But how pitchers go up against him with knuckle curves and sweepers, but I'm not surprised that Mookie and Enrique Hernandez have significant ownership on Cole because, again, he's a Boston. He's a Yankee, and both those guys are Red Sox, former Boston Red Sox, and they're inevitably going to have had at bats against Cole. I mean, this is why we needed Boston in the playoffs. Bro. Sorry. Sorry about that. Just had some technical difficulties. Man, fucking hell. Fucking chicken shit. Whatever. Anyway, but yeah, looking at all these things, I'm actually surprised. Oh wait, no, Verdugo. I forgot Verdugo played for. Oh yeah, he's played for Boston and Los Angeles too. That's another thing that I'm kind of neglecting. Hold on, give me a second. Forgot my keys. Yeah, I mean, just looking at the matchups, they're definitely in favor of Los Angeles. I mean, Jack Flaherty has significant ownership. He's either gone up against these guys before or he hasn't gone up against them at all. He's never gone up against Judge before. He's never gone up against Stanton. Stanton has been really good this playoff, so I'm a little worried for him in that case. Chisholm, he's only had one at bat against, and the only guy who he has significant ownership of is down in the sixth hole, or who has ownership over Flaherty, I'll say. But the only guy who I can particularly see right now having a good amount of ownership on Garrett Cole. Sorry, what am I talking about? Sorry, I'm mixing up the pitchers. Jack Flaherty, the only guy who has significant ownership on him in that Yankees lineup is Anthony Rizzo, and Anthony Rizzo is in the sixth hole. I wonder if Boone should just move him up to number 5 and give him a better chance with Stanton. I know that Chisholm has not been doing great this postseason either, so I wonder why he's in the 5th hole. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic. So I'd say Los Angeles has a lot going for them in this World Series, considering like that just the matchup they have against Cole. I mean, they have two guys who are known for owning on Garrett Cole, who are Hernandez and obviously Mookie Betts. I mean, that's going to be helpful, especially if Hernandez can get people on base. If he can get people if he can get on to Garrett Cole with runners on, that can be huge. But Cole does have a little bit of ownership on Shohei Ohtani. Shohei was hitting 200 overall for his career, so that's not great. But yeah, just looking around at these matchups right now, the pitching matchups in particular, it's going to be interesting because Soto also doesn't have a great career versus Jack Flaherty. I mean, if Soto gets out in his first at-bat versus Jack Flaherty, in my opinion, it's going to be a long game for Soto. I think Soto will do better in the next couple games. I'm sorry, I'm not speaking correctly. The problem is that Soto is currently 1 for 9 with 3 Ks versus Flaherty. Obviously, things like this can change because Soto's obviously a great player. He's not going to let a little adversity get on top of him, but this is something that I would definitely take into consideration if anybody's betting. But Soto going up against Jack Flaherty, it's a little unhelpful. But I feel like Garrett Cole I feel like this series for the Yankees is going to hinge on their pitching being really good. I think Rodon's going to have a fantastic game in the next few days. The next game that they have, which is tomorrow. What else? Along with that, they're going to have to Garrett. Okay. I'm going to say this about the Yankees pitching. It's a slight wild card, especially the chaotic nature of their starters. Garrett can have really good days, but he can also have really bad days. Again, like I said, I've examined him in the playoffs before. He's had good days. The problem is that he has these weird days, like against Boston, like against the Cubs, like against the Nationals and other days where he'll go up against certain players and he'll have a really bad day where it's like he'll give up like 5 runs in 3 innings or 5 runs in 4 innings, something of that nature. Obviously, Garrett Cole is not a bad playoff pitcher. He proved me wrong this postseason. I had a very hot take saying that he was a bad postseason pitcher. Statistically, he's not. But I will say that in the postseason, he can have these very, very bizarre games where he plays very badly. Like, I'm just going to go to like his playoff pitching. In particular, his game versus one of the series I want to talk about when I talk about Garrett is the I believe it's the his 2022, I believe, when he was playing for when did he play against Boston? Oh yeah, his games in 2021, his game versus Boston, in 2018 for Houston, his game versus Boston as well. Again, it's Boston, so I'm not going to give him too much crap. 2015, his game versus the versus Chicago, and the World Series. I think it was the World Series for Houston. Hold on, the World Series versus Houston. He had one really bad game that got away from him, where Soto hit a home run, and that's when the game got out of hand for Houston. Again, I think I've said this before. The Yankees will go as far as certain players take them, and I think that I was actually a little wrong about that, because a lot of the guys that have performed well this postseason are Gleyber Torres, Jazz Chisholm, Anthony Volpe. Sorry, not Jazz Chisholm. Gleyber Torres, Giancarlo Stanton, Anthony Volpe, Anthony Rizzo. These guys, yeah. Ramley, good to see you. Good to have you back. I mean, I'm just discussing matchups, and I'm discussing in particular how you and your lineup has a bunch of guys that happen to own Garrett Cole. And let me just bring this up for you if you didn't see it. Here. The career versus Garrett Cole right here. Shohei hasn't done great. He's had 7 Ks and is hitting 200. But you'll notice something. Mookie Betts, really good. Enrique Hernandez, very good. Freddie Freeman, very good. You know what I noticed besides Freeman? These two. Hey, Johnny. It's all up to the Yankees, fellas. I mean, we'll see, Johnny. We'll see. But I was just telling Ramley about this. But looking at like Mookie Betts, Enrique Hernandez, and Freddie Freeman, you have several guys that have significant ownership over Garrett Cole. Like, it's just, I'm looking at all this. Like, I'm looking at all this specifically analytically and just the at-bats that they've had against them. Obviously, you can't tell everything from this, but like, I like to think as a baseball fan, like, in order to determine how good a pitcher is against a hitter and how good a hitter is against a pitcher, you have to have at least 15 at-bats or 10 at-bats. Same can be said about all the Dodgers role players. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, look at all these, like, I'm serious when I say this. Enrique Hernandez has a lot of ownership on Garrett Cole, and Mookie Betts has a lot of ownership on Garrett Cole. Freddie Freeman just does this to everybody, though, so this isn't particularly surprising. I'm pretty sure Freddie Freeman has this stat line against pretty much every pitcher in baseball. But It's weird because Shohei hasn't had a great career against Cole. Neither has Teoscar. But I think that you guys have the significantly better matchups considering looking at these numbers. Soto gets owned by Flaherty. And the only guy that hits really well versus Flaherty is Anthony Rizzo, and he's down in the 6th spot. So considering all these things, you guys look pretty good for this game. I mean, considering all these things, I mean, it's weird because I think Flaherty, the only reason why his ERA is particularly bad is because that one game versus the Mets, and it wasn't even, But yeah, it's like, considering all these things, I mean, hi, Daniel, happy Friday. But anyway, like, Flaherty is probably the best pitcher on the Dodgers staff right now, not in terms of stuff, but certainly in experience in this postseason. Listen, that game versus the Mets was genuinely ugly, but keep it real. That was like that. The only reason why his ERA is like a 7 right now is because that one inning, and the other 2 starts, he was absolutely great. So I think that Flaherty has a certain advantage here. And if you look at Garrett Cole's, again, I'm going to say this for the record about Garrett Cole. He's not a bad postseason pitcher whatsoever. He's a great statistical postseason pitcher. I mean, Senior specifically pointed this out to me, Glenn, and everybody else. He has a 2.98 ERA in the postseason in 20 games and 120 innings. He has a good whip in these postseasons, and his strikeout per 9 ratio is 10.9, which is really good. But the problem with Garrett Cole is not about like these really consistent numbers, which are good. The problem is I'm worried that he's going to have like one game in this series where he just absolutely blows up out of nowhere, like he did versus Chicago, like he did versus Boston, like he did versus Washington, and like he did again versus Boston. I mean, we're looking at all these matchups, and he looks solid, Garrett Cole, and he's been very good. I mean, let's just look at his postseason numbers this year. He has been pretty good. I mean, looking at all things considered, his overall ERA for the postseason is 3.31, which isn't bad. But his whip is a 1.53, which is really high, and he's gone 16 innings, which is pretty good. And he's also got 12 Ks in those innings. But I am worried that Cole is going to have like this one really bad game where he gets absolutely shelled by the Dodgers lineup, which is consistent of guys like Kike, like Enrique Hernandez, and guys like Mookie Betts, and a bunch of other good players who are known for owning Garrett Cole. And all of those things considered, if Cole doesn't go like 6 innings, then the Yankees bullpen is going to have to be super ready to be emergency firemen. And that's going to be an issue. But like, I'm looking at the stats for pitchers in this postseason because I think that's how this is going to, because we both know these two teams have great lineups and they're great. The problem is, how well is their pitching going to do? Busy Friday for LA Sports. USC, the Lakers, and the World Series all within 5 miles of each other downtown tonight. I mean, that is a busy night in Los Angeles sports, man. I mean, that is one thing I will give to the city of Los Angeles. They do care about their sports. I mean, they flock to sports all the time. Who do you think has mentally stronger car, Cole or Flaherty? I mean, Garrett Cole he's had his ups and downs. He's a good postseason pitcher, and he can keep his head. But I think Flaherty, he's a really experienced postseason pitcher too. I love Jack Flaherty's game, and I think that he could hold his own. But that's tough because Garrett Cole, again, like I'm worried that he's going to have like that one bad game and let it get away from him, like he did versus Boston, like he did versus the Nationals, and like he did versus our friends in Chicago. I mean, it's tough to say, but I feel like Flaherty, considering all of the things that are going for him, he's going to be very confident in what he's doing. I don't think he's going to be out of it. I think Flaherty will go like 6 innings, 7 innings, and keep it all under his control. And then he's going to try and pass it off to the Dodger bullpen. I think that all of those things considered, I have a belief that Flaherty is going to keep it under his control for the most part, and he'll be able to push like 6 or 7 innings, I think. I mean, yeah. I have faith in Jack Flaherty to perform in the postseason. I'm just afraid that Garrett Cole is going to have like one bad game. Yeah, I feel like Cole can break down a little easier than Jack. Yeah, I mean, Jack Flaherty obviously didn't have a great game versus the Mets, but the game before that versus the Mets, he had a great game. So, like, again, let me just check that. Like, they're very night and day, the stat lines that he had. I mean, hit one of his games versus the Mets. He had it on Sunday the 13th. I think it was at Dodger Stadium. He goes 7 innings with only 2 hits allowed, 2 walks, 6 Ks, and facing the total batter. Sorry, let me just see. FB. No. In total batters faced, he faced 22 guys. I mean, he was sensational. And then you go to the next game, 3 innings, 8 hits, 8 runs, 8 earned runs, a home run, 4 walks, and not a K. I mean, he's been up and down this postseason, but I think that Flaherty will do a good job for the most part. It's just about like not blowing up. And I think that's going to be what happens. Flaherty should have a chance to bounce back in game 5 versus the Mets. Yeah. I mean, that's what I think is going to happen. I mean, he had a really good game. Okay. So I think this is how his postseason has gone so far. He's had one really bad game versus the Padres where he allowed 4 runs, but then they won anyway. So it doesn't matter. Then he had a really good game versus the Mets where he has a fantastic game. Then he has a really bad game versus the Mets where he gets shelled. It feels like we're going to have that other game where he has a really good game, especially considering the competition he's facing. He's got a career of 1 for 9 versus Juan Soto and 3 Ks. I mean, that's got to mean something. Obviously, I think 10 should be the baseline, but that's certainly good. And all those things considered, I mean, Flaherty has the edge in a lot of ways, not to mention he has a great team with run support behind him. I know that, and obviously you factor in Garrett Cole and his bad times he's had versus like Boston Red Sox hitters. It's really uncomfortable in a lot of ways for him versus Mookie versus Hernandez and all these other guys. I'm just going to look something up. Garrett Cole versus Boston. I mean, let's just look at this. He has had some good games versus Boston. No, he doesn't. I mean, like, let me just look it up. Garrett Cole versus the Boston Red Sox. His career versus the Boston Red Sox. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah, he's got like a 5 ERA versus them his career. Obviously, that's not who he's facing today, but like when you have guys like Mookie and Kike and a bunch of other Red Sox lined up against him, it's like you get an opportunity, and those guys have an opportunity to do what they've done to him so many times, especially considering they've seen him in so many at-bats. I mean, this is going to be – it's going to be so close, honestly. I don't feel like this is going to be a sweep by either team. Like Ramley said, this is going to be like going to be tough for both pitchers to navigate the top 4 of both those lineups. Those teams, both teams, the top 4 is the thing of nightmares. I mean, let's see. Let's just talk about those top 4 lineups for a second. We have Gleyber Torres, Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton. Listen, Gleyber Torres has been having a fantastic postseason. Juan Soto's been having a fantastic postseason. Aaron Judge has been having a really, really bad postseason, but his career versus the Dodgers, I mean, whenever he faces the Dodgers, his eyes just light up. I mean, this postseason, I'm keeping it real. He has not been great whatsoever, but like you could do, I mean, considering whenever he plays the Dodgers, his eyes just light up and he plays well. I think that I think he may do well, but I'm not sure. I'm hoping that Judge doesn't continue to play bad. But then you have Giancarlo Stanton, who has been nothing short of fantastic this postseason. I mean, he's great. I mean, it's Giancarlo, he's great. Both pitchers are SoCal boys. Yeah, they're both. I mean, I'm pretty sure Cole's from UCLA as well. And whatchamacallit. Yeah, and Cole is a Cali kid too. Yeah, he grew up north with us. He was a Giants fan. California is the best state when it comes to producing world-class athletes. Probably. I mean, if we're being honest, like if you wanted to like go through a list of incredible athletes for the world and for US sports, yeah, probably California. I mean, it's interesting in my opinion, like looking at all these stats. And then okay, let's turn over to the Dodgers lineup for a second and just look at their top four. Shohei, Mookie, Freddie, Teoscar Hernandez. I mean, that's 3 Hall of Fame hitters and a guy who just had a career year. I mean, that's 3 Hall of Famers. I really mean that too when I say that. That's 3 Hall of Fame hitters and a guy who just hit like 40 home runs this year, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just check. No, I think it was like 33. Okay, 33 home runs. Still great, but like Teoscar Hernandez, he's been having an iffy postseason, but he's been pretty good. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Freddie Freeman is Freddie Freeman. So, you know, like it's Freddie Freeman. Who would doubt Freddie Freeman at this point in his career? He's fantastic. And then Shohei, we all know who Shohei is. Oh, sorry, Mookie Betts. Let's start with him first. Mookie is Mookie. He's had experience. He's a great player. 5 tools, class athlete. I mean, Judge turns it on against the Dodgers. It's the young Giants fan at heart. I mean, the funny thing is the only team that he does better against than you guys is us. So it's not, I don't think it's sentimentality. I think he's just incredible. And then there you go. Stanton's from LA. I mean, like we got a bunch of like, I'm not going to say homers, but certainly guys who are like, you know, well connected to like both these teams because they played for these teams and they're from the cities, except for Mookie and Freddie. These guys aren't like a lot of these guys are heavily connected. And I mean, looking at the top of Los Angeles's lineup, I mean, this is going to be very tough for Garrett Cole. I think Garrett Cole is going to have to rely on that knuckle curve to deceive Shohei and Freddie. He's going to have to go with the knuckle curve. He's just going to have to accept the fact that Mookie Betts is probably going to get a hit off him and trying to do something crazy. But honestly, I would be more inclined to say to Garrett Cole, just like don't take any risks. I know you can get these guys out, but like only do what you have to do. I mean, then you look at like these lineups are just both stacked up in a way that's insane. I mean, this is going to be again, I don't think this is going to be a pitching World Series. This is a World Series of slugging. I've already gone over my rant about how this isn't the best World Series, but that doesn't matter right now. We're covering the World Series despite all that. But yeah, Freddie Freeman. Oh, well, there you go. I mean, there's another guy. So the question is, whose top 4 would you take? The Dodgers. I'm sorry, but I would take the Dodgers any day of the week. I'm sorry. Listen, I'm just being honest about how good these two teams are. Listen, the Yankees, Gleyber Torres, Juan Soto, Judge, and Stanton are great, okay? Gleyber Torres has been having a fantastic postseason, but he's a little inconsistent. Juan Soto is obviously one of the best in the world, and there's no doubt in my mind that he can be incredible. It's just, you know, nothing there. I mean, he's obviously great. Judge is obviously great, but Stanton and if you look at Stanton and you look at Gleyber Torres, they are really good hitters, no doubt. I would never say they're bad hitters, but would I take them over Teoscar and like, I don't even know. I would not take any of those other guys over like one of the Dodgers players in that top 4. Juan Soto is such a smart hitter. Yeah, he's fantastic. I mean, he just grinds at bats. I mean, ever since he entered the league, this is a true stat, by the way. Ever since he entered the league in 2019, he has led the league in walks. I mean, that's fantastic. But if I'm keeping it real, Soto, Judge, Torres, and Stanton are all great, and I like them all. But keep it real. Like, would I want that, or would I want Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Teoscar Hernandez? All 3 of those guys are Hall of Fame players. I'm just keeping it real about this. I'm not trying to fanboy about them either. I'm just keeping it honest. Like these three guys, those are Hall of Famers. And then you have one other guy who's had a career year. So, I mean, that just tells me that just tells me enough. I mean, then again, you could argue, oh yeah, Stanton, Judge, and Soto are all Hall of Famers, and I wouldn't dispute that either. Stanton's got a tougher case, but he's certainly a guy who would be worthy of it if you ever argued for him. I mean, but Giancarlo has had his struggles, even though he's been really good this postseason. Honestly, it's tough for me to say because both teams are phenomenal. Both of them are fantastic. But if I was being totally honest, I'm taking Soto over Teoscar and Freeman, but not over Mookie and Shohei. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Yes, I will take Soto over Teoscar and Freeman. I mean, I think Freeman's a better all-time player right now. Obviously, Soto has the potential to have greatness, but I would not take him and Judge over all three. If I was going to pick between two of the lineups, the top fours of those lineups, I'd probably take the Dodgers lineup. If I was asking, what they're being asked to do is exactly the same. And I would ask myself, which one's better? I mean, also the other thing is the dynamic that Shohei brings as a speed threat as well. If you ask for like the threat of speed and other issues, like yes, the other thing about the Yankees lineup, they don't steal bags. They don't steal any bases, while Mookie and Shohei can a little bit, even though Mookie didn't do that much. Hey, Morgana, good to see you. But yeah, the thing is, Mookie Betts hasn't stolen that many. I mean, he stole 16 bags this season. That's pretty good. I'll give him credit there. That's pretty good. I mean, that's a really good number. I mean, yeah. So, and then you have Ohtani and Mookie who provide a dynamic of speed and hitting. So that's dangerous. That's five. There's both players are five tools. Mookie's obviously one of the best inside out hitters I've seen. But yeah. Game one is today. I think the Yankees will destroy Flaherty. I mean, I don't think so. If you actually look at those lineup, the numbers, I mean, the problem is it's hard to examine because Giancarlo and Judge have neither had an at-bat versus Flaherty. And then you look at Torres and Soto's. Torres is 1 for 3 and Soto is 1 for 9. So you put those numbers together, they are both together 2 for 12 versus Jack Flaherty. So I'd actually say that Flaherty could have a really good game and bounce back, but let me just look at this. I mean, looking at the dynamics of this postseason, this is going to be fantastic. If you look at the dynamics, this has potential. 16 steals and he was out for the broken hand for a couple months. Yeah. So if I'm looking at the dynamics of these two lineups, the top fours, Ohtani and Mookie can steal bases and are both 5-tool players. Freeman is obviously one of the best pure hitters in baseball. He can hit singles, doubles, and he can hit home runs. He's great at all those things. And then you look at Teoscar Hernandez, who is a premium threat for power at every play. I would take that in a heartbeat. I mean, I'm split 50-50. My top lineup would be Shohei, Soto, Mookie, Judge. Yeah, my top lineup would be Shohei, Soto, Mookie, Judge, Torres, Freeman, Stanton, and Teoscar got left out. I mean, yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, Shohei, Soto, Mookie, Judge. I mean, the thing is, Freeman is obviously really good, and he's a Hall of Fame career player, but right now he's injured too, so that's an issue. But Torres, Freeman, Stanton, and Teoscar are not even close to as good as those four players. I mean, Freeman might be when he's healthy, but Shohei, Soto, Mookie, and Judge are in like a league of their own in a lot of ways. Somewhere out there, Mike Trout smiling over his bro Shohei. I mean, I just watched Mike Trout get King Felix before our very eyes. Mike Trout might not even play baseball at center field next year, which is crazy to me. I'm nervous. I mean, I think both teams should be equally nervous. You're both going up against monsters, and keep it real. This isn't going to be a postseason of anywhere near like defensive prowess or pitching. It's basically going to be who out hits the other, in my opinion. It's very tough. I think pitching will be okay with Cole and Flaherty, but other than that, it's pretty thin. I'd say, though, I would take the Dodgers front four. I'd take the Dodgers front four. I mean, it's very... I mean, just looking at the dynamics, I mean, that's really good. Obviously, Torres has been really good this postseason. So has Soto. Judge has been great in the regular season, but this postseason would be shaky. Stanton has been in fantastic form this postseason, but I would say those guys, they're really good. But I would say the Dodgers front four is fantastically good. I mean, Mookie, Freddie, and Teoscar would be superstars on any other team, the headliners, but they are all true compliments to Shohei Ohtani at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, we're going to see how well this series goes, but I think it's going to be about my favorite stat in baseball, which is runners in scoring position. I mean, let me just get this out. I mean, I need to get this team statistics for both teams. But I'm going to check this out. Let me just get the information this year. I mean, I'm going to check out how well both these teams have been with runners in scoring position, because I think it's the most important stat in all of baseball. I mean, okay. So the New York Yankees are second with runners in scoring position. Where's the Los Angeles Dodgers? Where are the Dodgers? Oh, yeah, they're sixth. Okay, they're pretty good. So, okay, let's just get the information written down right here. So, 262 BA and an OPS of 9 OPS. LAD is a 266 OPS, 266 batting average, and an OPS of .790. I mean, where's the weighted runs created plus? I mean, yeah, I mean, okay, so that's your information basically. Yeah, runners in scoring position is so crucial. It was the downfall of both the Padres and Mets. I mean, okay, so the New York Yankees batting runners with scoring position, they are second in baseball, and the Dodgers were sixth in baseball with runners in scoring position. So the Dodgers in baseball overall, cumulatively between all of their players, had a batting average of 266 and an OPS of 790. That's pretty good for overall. And then with the Yankees, though, their overall batting average was 262 with an 809 OPS. So we're looking at two teams. Who was first? The Arizona Diamondbacks. The Arizona Diamondbacks, who I picked as my World Series champ in the NL for the NL. The Diamondbacks were number one with runners in scoring position this year. I mean, that's particularly why I wanted them to be the team. The Mets were third, actually. Milwaukee was only fourth actually. Kansas City, Detroit was really good. So was Cincinnati and Cleveland. Oh, man. But the top five is really the most important. But anyway, we're not looking at the Diamondbacks or anybody else. We're looking at the Yankees and the Dodgers. But, wow. I mean, so see, this is what I mean when I say that my pick for the Diamondbacks was not entirely unreasonable. I really mean that when I say that. That pick was not unreasonable. I really mean that. Because if that offense had gotten into the postseason, I would have loved to see what would have happened. So let me guess. The FS Giants were 27th. I think they were 26th. Yeah, we were the 26th with runners in scoring position. We had an OPS of 673. The best teams that made it to the postseason were teams with runners in scoring position. I mean, I'm looking at all of the top 10 teams, except for 2 of them, they were all postseason teams, except for Arizona, actually. Never mind. So New York, the 2 New York teams, the Milwaukee Brewers, Kansas City, Los Angeles, the Detroit Tigers, and Cleveland, the top 10 in runners in scoring position, all went to the playoffs. The only guys that were the exceptions were Arizona, Texas, and Cincinnati. So, yeah. I mean, you were very close. I mean, that would I wouldn't have been surprised if we were 30th, if I'm being honest. No need to put salt in your own wound. I mean, but yeah, anyway, just looking at all this stuff, this is going to be runners in scoring position, in my opinion, is going to be the stat that is going to remember this World Series. And it's not even going to be the cumulative runners in scoring position. It's going to be like that one at bat with the bases loaded and 2 outs on the board. That's what I think is this World Series can come down to. Like 1 or 2 at bats where there's like runners on base with like 1 or 2 outs. That'll be what determines the World Series, in my opinion. It's going to be the margins, the tiny little margins. But again, I'm not making predictions, so it doesn't matter. I'm free, y'all. I'm never making predictions ever again. Not after the horrible ALDS and ALCS that I had. So no, not happening. But yeah, all around, man. But one thing I want to do quickly is give a special rant out for everybody. Not about the Giants, the Dodgers, or any of the teams that are currently in contention to win it all. I want to talk about the Seattle Mariners and their failure to realize their potential. The Seattle Mariners, I want to talk to their fans and say, I'm so sorry for you guys. Because listen, I know the Giants underachieved this year, but we were never expected to do anything by a lot of people. But the Mariners were. I mean, I want to talk about their pitching staff. Luis Castillo, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Bryce Miller, Brian Wu. Cal Raleigh was their catcher. He had been doing really well this season. Ramley knows this guy, Justin Turner, Los Angeles Dodgers legend Justin Turner, along with J.P. Crawford and a bunch of other good players like Victor Robles, Julio Rodriguez, Randy Arozarena, and other players like Mariners. What are you guys doing? You were 85-77 and you lost a 10-game lead to the Houston Astros, who had been toiling because their starting rotation was wrecked. This is a special shout out to the Seattle Mariners and their idiotic management. What are you doing, man? At what point did you realize? Did you really think, oh yeah, this offense is good, it'll be fine? Poor Mariners, the only team to never make it to the World Series. Yeah, that's so hilarious too, because I'm going to read off a list of names to all of you right now. Allow me to tell you a tale of woe. Ken Griffey Jr., Ichiro Suzuki, David Ortiz, Felix Hernandez, Randy Johnson, Edgar Martinez, Alex Rodriguez, Carlos Guillen, Mike Cameron, John Olerud, Jason Varitek, Derek Lowe, Adrian Beltre, Adam Jones, Nelson Cruz, Omar Vizquel, Jay Buhner, Asdrubal Cabrera, Shin-Shu Chu, Cliff Lee, Robinson Cano. That is the talent that the Mariners have squandered over their history as a team. That is the talent. That is the talent of the team. That's Cooperstown. Ichiro, Edgar Martinez, Ken Griffey Jr., Randy Johnson. I really want to emphasize this to the Mariners, okay? They have had such riches in their player pool, and you have a superstar right now in Julio Rodriguez, and you are utterly wasting him. That's a disgrace to everything. Seriously, like how the hell do you waste talent as good as that and not do anything? How the hell do you have a pitching staff like that that plays so well the entire year and you can't do a damn thing? I want to give you guys their stats. Their ERA for the season was a 3.49. That's the second in MLB. The quality starts overall was 92 of them. That's first in MLB. The WHIP overall was 1.08. The opposition batting average was 0.220. The Mariners are a failure, and I really mean that when I say that. Funny because the Seattle Seahawks are about to do the same exact thing this season in the NFL. Pretty much, yeah. And honestly, I really hope the Seahawks fail. But here's the thing about the Mariners. Like, you are an abject failure. Listen, there have been worse teams that have made a World Series. The Florida Marlins have won a World Series. I really want to emphasize that in particular. The Florida Marlins, after being owned by Jeffrey Loria, who's one of the biggest scumbags in the history of baseball, and being meddled with by Derek Jeter, they have made a World Series sooner than you. They've won 2 of them against the Yankees and the Cleveland Guardians, I believe. Cleveland Indians at the time. But seriously, Mariners, with all of that talent, with all of the talent you had this year and the greater expectations you had this year, in no way did you ever get serious and think, maybe we need to overhaul the offense we currently have because it's been really, really bad. At what point did you start to realize, oh yeah, maybe we're not good enough at the plate to the point where our pitching staff can't even win games without us? You didn't even have a moment or a thought like, oh yeah, maybe I should make this team a little better than it was. But yeah, that's just disgraceful. Like, you failed. You are an abject failure. You haven't even made the World Series with that amount of players that you have on that team. Like, you have so much talent, it's not even funny. Like, there are teams in the world that would kill for Julio Rodriguez, who would kill for Randy Arozarena, and you can't succeed with them. Seattle is not a small market either. No, they're not. I mean, look at how much the Seattle Seahawks support their team. Yes, I don't like the Seahawks because I'm a 49ers fan, and I'm supposed to not like them. But seriously, even the Rockies have made it to the World Series. Exactly. The team in our division, Ramley, that we make constant jokes about, that we can basically pencil in for a win every year, they've made a World Series sooner with less talent than the Mariners. But this is a special shout out to the Mariners this season because, you guys are a freaking failure. You had a 10.5 game lead on Houston, who were toiling in the abyss, who looked dead. The Houston Astros looked dead. The Houston Astros looked completely finished. Their starting rotation was more wrecked than a freaking car on the interstate in LA. Seriously, you let the Astros build back and beat you because you guys skidded and played horrifically. That's not acceptable, bro. That's just not okay. How you are letting Julio Rodriguez's career be wasted away with you. If the Mariners might be the greatest failure in all of sports, and that's not even joking. The Mariners, of all the teams that have ever failed at what they do and succeeding to win a championship, despite all of the opportunities and all of the talent that they've had, the Mariners, of all of those teams, might be the greatest failure sports has ever seen. Genuinely. That's not even jokingly either. There are a lot of teams. The reason why a lot of teams haven't won championships as of late are because they're newer teams, and that's okay. It's okay to not win a championship immediately. But when you have been existing for over 50 some years and you've had opportunity to win, especially with the talents of guys like Hernandez, Johnson, Griffey, Ichiro, and Martinez, how the hell do you guys constantly fail? Like, I want to be clear. Like, the current Mariners team, or like even a couple of a lot of the Mariners teams that have existed over like the past 20 years are more talented and success and impressive than the Giants teams that won in 2010, 2012, and 2014. The difference between us and them, though, is that we figured out a way to win. But this is what disappoints me, because my team has never been the most talented. We've always been talented to a degree, but we're overlooked. The difference between us and them, though, is that the Mariners are super talented and have a lot of expectations, and they fail every single time. And it's infuriating to me because you guys have more talent than a lot of teams that we'll ever see, and you can't succeed. Again, there are some teams that are so hilariously untalented, and they've won World Series. Do you really think the Cardinals are more talented in their history than the Mariners? They're not. I mean, yeah, Ichiro deserved to play in a World Series. That's the saddest part. No, Ichiro, like, I've always looked at that. Like, Ichiro is easily my favorite Mariners player. And I look at this career that he had, and I think, damn, dude, that guy was so good, and he got wasted. He got wasted by the Mariners, and it's disgraceful. Like, how the hell do you waste the career of a guy as great as Ichiro Suzuki? That's insane to me. Like, that's just so horrifying, in my opinion. Look at what happened to Felix Hernandez. He got wasted before our very eyes. I mean, again, I say this all the time. I just said this repeatedly. There are teams that have been less talented in their history, that have been less talented as a franchise, have had less talented players, and even they've won World Series. No one can tell me that the St. Louis Cardinals have been more talented than the Mariners. I'm sorry. Like, my favorite player of all time is Ken Griffey Jr. Yeah. I mean, look what happened to poor Ken Griffey Jr. I mean, Ken Griffey Jr. just got wasted. I mean, he was so good for the first 10 years of his career, and the Mariners just let him go and waste away. Like, good luck, man. Like, seriously, like, if you look at the World Series champions that have won a lot of rings, even like the second most ever, like, look at the St. Louis Cardinals. They have 11 World Series. You can't tell me that they have been historically more talented than the Seattle Mariners. Like, they've had good players like Bob Gibson, Yadier Molina, and a bunch of other decent players like Pujols, obviously. I mean, Pujols isn't decent. He's a great player. He's one of the best ever. But if you look at the cast of characters that they had, they are nowhere near as talented as some of the lineups that the Mariners had. And yet the Cardinals have actually found a way to win. The Mariners, despite all the talent they had, they wasted it. And honestly, it's why they are the most incredible failure in sports. I wore number 24 growing up because of Junior, and it was the way of Kobe before. I mean, both those guys are legends of the game, of sports, and honestly, they deserve credit for wearing that number. They're incredible, but yeah, like, it's just so infuriating as a fan of sports to watch a team that has that much talent waste itself away. Like, that's insane. I mean, it's just infuriating, man. Like, again, it's because there have been less talented teams that have won World Series before. You're going to tell me that, like, our best team in 2014 was better than the Seattle Mariners teams that were, like, really good? We weren't even close in terms of talent. But the difference between us is that we actually won. And it's infuriating because it's like, dude, you should be able to win a World Series even by some BS fluke and then be charged with underachieving rather than not winning a damn thing. It's just, I look at the history of that team and I say to myself, how the hell have you guys not won a World Series yet? Even by accident. Again, I'll say it again. The Florida Marlins have won 2 World Series titles, 2 of them against 2 teams that were probably better than them. The Guardians, or the Indians at the time, and the Yankees. That's not, like, that doesn't seem feasible to me. Like, I can't grasp that mentally. Like, that's just so crazy that a team that is clearly better in terms of talent has been a bigger underachiever. The Nationals, who they traded with a lot, have 1 more World Series than them. 1 more. But then again, the Montreal Expos and the Nationals in general have been really talented. So it's just like, but this was like my special rant for the biggest thing that I wanted to emphasize about this MLB season before we started the World Series. Like, they have to even make it there to win it. Yeah, that's the funny thing, but it just seems so crazy how they can't even climb that mountain. But yeah, it's like, but that was like my special rant for the season. Like, this is the one thing I wanted to take away from this season besides my Giants playing really badly. I just wanted to emphasize to the Mariners, like, stop wasting your damn talent and do better. Like, seriously, do better than what you're doing right now, because your fans deserve it after all of the discontent and the sadness that those teams have felt. Like all of the discontent and sadness that those fans have felt about the Seattle Mariners, surely after all of they have seen, all they've gone through, they deserve a chance to win a World Series. It's even crazier, like you said, Johnny, how they haven't even made it. A team with that talent and that many good players, to be fair, they got Death Starred by the evil empire multiple times, but it's like, it's still not okay. You can't have the likes of 3 Hall of Fame hitters like Griffey, Ichiro, Alex Rodriguez, and guys like Edgar Martinez, who's super underrated on your team, and keep failing. That's just not okay. Hey, before I forgot, Carter, how about my Rams last night? Okay, back to World Series. Go Dodgers. I mean, your Rams, I'm not going to say you guys, okay, you guys got a little bit of help. But at the end of the day, you guys were up 8. You were up 8. You probably would have won anyway, but that it was a little bit weird at the end. Obviously, it's a call. You can't change it, but it's like, you guys were probably going to win anyway. In reality, the Rams are a much better team than the 49ers right now. I'm just keeping it real because you guys actually have your people healthy. All of our guys, our entire locker room is practically a stretcher. Is a bunch of stretchers. Like, seriously. Dude, the Mariners have only won 3 division titles ever. That's pathetic. It is hilariously pathetic. Listen, another team that was a failure for a long time was the Texas Rangers. And even they've won more division titles than you. They've won a World Series last year. Tough division, but still. Exactly. Yes, that division's tough. Like, you look around. Obviously, the Angels aren't competitive anymore. But I know the A's were really good for a long time, too. That's impressive. And the Astros are obviously a monster. But even by accident with the talent you have, you should be able to BS your way to just 1. Even by accident. It doesn't even have to be like, oh, yeah, I'm totally shooting for the division. No, you should be able to accidentally, with the level of talent you have, be able to win. But anyway, this obviously we had World Series talk and everything else, but this was like my little special rants, my biggest takeaway from this season, and how the Mariners are going to be continuously underachieving if they don't figure it out. But anyway, y'all, I hope y'all enjoy the first game tonight and have some fun watching it. I mean, I know I'm rooting for, the World Series is over in 4 games. LOL, I'm ready for the offseason. I mean, I am too. I can't root for either team. It's tough for me to, I don't want to root for either team in this case, but I just hope for at least some myriad of excitement. But Anyway, it's good talking to you guys. Thank you for coming around. Everybody who's came here, Johnny Morkatna, Daniel Ramley, our people at Giants, our people at the Northern Lights Sports and Entertainment. Thank you guys for just coming around, talking to me about sports and everything else. And y'all, I hope that we have a good fall classic. See ya.
You've been watching the Northern California Sports and Entertainment Network, a Northern Lights Entertainment broadcasting station.